Here we go. Sales stamina. What are some of the tricks, tools, strategies, and ideas that we professional sales reps can use to keep our stamina up? That was a good word for me to use. And really engage with our clients and our prospects at higher levels. Welcome to Sales Chatter. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm super excited. We've got my dear friend Andrea Waltz here from Go for No. We're going to be diving into the new book, When They Say No, and we're going to be talking about sales stamina, how you, the professional logistics sales rep, can increase that sales stamina, close more deals in 2024, and really start creating the life and business you truly dream of. Andrea, thank you so much for being here. As we were just saying off air, it's been a while since we've spoke, but you're looking amazing, and I know you're feeling good. How has everything been with you?
You know, it's been a wild year, Dan. It really has. It really has.
2023 has been crazy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the other day I tweeted, I said, if I see one more headline with the word AI in it, I'm going to lose my mind. I want one day where there's no, AI in any headlines. So it's just, there's a lot of changes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are now. There's so much change, and the economy, one day you feel like it's just going to be amazing and it's going gangbusters, and then the next day you go like, we're spinning down the toilet, and so I just feel like things are very tumultuous.
Yes, we were talking a couple of weeks ago on the Wednesday's podcast of Data Day, where like it's so crazy now. You've got pirates attacking like destroyers, U.S. military destroyers in the Red Sea. And I mean, there's a video out there where these pirates, and they're literally in a fishing boat, like a dinghy almost, and they're cruising beside, and these guys got like 80 millimeter cannons that shoot like 1,000 rounds a second, and these guys got machine guns, and they just finally, the U.S. just said, okay, enough, and they just blew them right out of the water. It's like, but, and I only, like, that's pretty morbid, I guess, now that I just said that, but, and I only say it because
it's a fact.
It's like we're seeing things that almost didn't exist a year ago. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people doing things. I hear what you're saying about AI. I mean, the amount of people. So here, let me rephrase this. And I know I'm doing a lot of jumping here. When we were off air, I was really coherent in what I was saying. But now, I see. You know how they always say, right? You jump on kind of the latest trend, right? And you saw so many people going AI. I can't tell you how many AI emails, sales emails I get where they're so AI written, where people think this is just a hack, and I'm here's my projection. People are going to really realize very soon that they've actually destroyed their credibility by just using AI and not putting the human element behind it. Because AI, call a spade a spade. Some of the tools are awesome for efficiency. Like I know just from cutting up videos and stuff, I can put it into AI. It might give me 4 videos where I could take 5 hours and maybe create 6, but in 10 minutes, it gives me 4 videos. I do something else while I get 4. So I'll take that variable, right, to increase my productivity, I guess. But when you, and for all you sales reps out there watching and listening, when you're just using AI to do your job, you're losing. You really are. I don't believe that. I mean, I don't know about you, Andrea. Do you believe that AI is kind of that the ultimate tool for sales reps?
Well, I remember, so being a dinosaur in the speaking and training industry, I'm going to go back to 1999, and Richard and my background is in the retail industry. And I remember in 99, everyone was freaking out because of
Y2K.
Everything was right, Y2K.
Yeah.
Plus, people were starting to shop online. It was just the beginning of that. Then you had the dot-com bubble, which was a whole other thing. But in that industry, it was always, high tech versus high touch, and you need to be delivering excellent customer service in order to keep your customers coming back and not jumping on online. And what's so funny about that is I think it's the same thing today, in that today, if you're a retailer, you need to be delivering excellent customer service so that hopefully people aren't shopping online on the big, we know who all the big players are online, and just buying from those two or three
On the
and coming into the mom and pop stores. And so when you look at any industry, I think with this AI thing, it's like there's always going to be this element of the human touch. Because even today, even though so much shopping is done online, reps still have to build that relationship. People will still have questions. You can use AI for all the tools, but you are still going to play a role. And so it's not all going to be like completely robotic and I'm not worried about it. What you have to do is find your place, use the tools where you can use them, but remember that people are going to make the difference. They are going to be the differentiator. They were back then 20 years ago, and I think they will be going forward.
I do too, and I believe that that wholeheartedly. There might be a period where people are like, finally, I don't need to deal with somebody. Like, there's going to be some people out there that say, finally, I could do everything, kind of like I don't need to tell 9 people no, or I don't need to disappoint somebody. I mean, we see this in logistics, and it comes in the form of, well, I have 27 people I email out to. Everybody sends me a rate, and I award the business to who I want to. That is a way to, get multiple people fighting for the same thing. Shippers believe this is a really good tool to reduce rates and get the lowest price possible. It actually artificially inflates the market because you have the same people calling the same trucks, which then prices go up. But more importantly, it's one of these things where they don't have to deny anybody, or they don't have to hear somebody go, oh, please, come on, give me the freight, give me the load. But I think like any bubble, right? The AI thing is like, there's so many AI tools coming out, and everybody's like, oh, this is going to change everything. Like, you can clone yourself, you can clone your voice. Will the technology get there? Sure. I actually I was listening to a podcast, and the gentleman on it was saying, within a couple of years, video is not going to be proof anymore, because you won't know what videos are real and what are wrong.
I just saw a crazy video where it was of a guy who's really popular in the financial space, and he was talking about this thing, and he was doing this weird financial giveaway, and I'm like, why would he do that? It wasn't even him.
Yes.
So yes, they're starting, and that's why there's going to be, along with this, such distrust. And so that will need to get fixed. Things will need to be certified. Things will have, however it's done, badges where you will know what's real and what's not. Yep. I don't know, but somebody will come up with that.
Well, YouTube's already starting it, right? Like, YouTube's already creating systems to identify like faceless YouTube channels and AI YouTube channels. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. I watch videos that are AI voices talking about something, probably an AI script, and I'll take what's good in it and I'll use it, or I'll mull it over and see, will it work for me? And then I'll kind of go on, right? And, for me, this is, I think, going to change the way we as salespeople really interact with prospects and customers. I think, specifically like video messaging, for example, right? There's tools now that are coming out where you can record one message, and if you've got a clear enough, distinction between you and the background. So like me, for example, in my background, I can change my background to pretty much anyone's LinkedIn profile. And it's the same video, just regurgitated over and over. And I think pretty soon it's going to come to the point where if I'm screen sharing, I'm going to say, listen, it's, Wednesday, December 20th at 1:28 p.m. Here's my clock on my computer. I'm real. It's Dan. You can pinch me, and I'm going to go, ow, because it's going to be like, what's real, what's not. And part of me even thinks that it's going to then start reverting back to phone calls as opposed to videos. Like the real means of knowing this person's real might go back to a simple phone call. And lo and behold, maybe AI will then, start doing dialers and all that kind of stuff. But I think the dynamics of sales are gonna change in a way that I don't think we've seen happen ever. And that's proof You are who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And again, because we don't know exactly what changes are going to take place, although what you just said, I mean, there were some really interesting insights there because I hadn't even thought that far ahead. But you're right. And so uh, I go back though to like if everybody's using the same tools, we see it now. You get the spam emails. So now you get them, they're personalized. Yeah, it says hey Dan, right? Like this person really gets your business. No, they don't. But they have a tool that can personalize. And so now it'll get personalized on video. And so maybe it will go back. Maybe it will go back to where people are picking up the phone and you have to figure out ways, again, to differentiate. Because if everybody's using the same tools and they're all kind of playing the game the same way, you better figure out a way to differentiate yourself. I mean, I think I talked about this a year ago, the last time we got together over video and did a show together, about how one of the pieces I use in my business is direct mail. I send packages because no one does that. Nobody sends mail anymore. And I send these really cool envelopes with go for no stickers on them. I mean, it's like when you get this package, it's a fun package.
Yeah.
So it's
and
a way
it's
to
entertaining for them to open.
Yeah.
Not everybody does it, so you immediately stand up. You mentioned that, and it brings me right back to our good friend Bob Berg. Right? Everything Bob does, every time I have a conversation with Bob, every time we do a podcast, every time there's an interaction, I get a card from him, and Bob goes out and makes cards that the exact size of an envelope, right? So he hand writes, thanks, Dan, that conversation was great, puts in a little piece about the conversation so I know what conversation he was talking about. And you get it. So not only do you have like, wow, that was a really cool conversation, a week later, it's like, wow, you Bob Berg, like international best-selling author of what, 7 books now, speaking on stage, you took your time to write me a letter. Like, that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
you're right. I actually, you might actually be hitting on something that is going to be the game changer for a lot of salespeople, because you can't AI a handwritten letter.
No. Although they'll try, but
Yeah.
but again, even if they try, so now everybody's on that bandwagon, and then people start to see through it because we're getting so sophisticated as consumers dealing with marketing, right?
Yes.
We can see marketing now a mile away. We can see sales a mile away. Everybody gets it now. And so if you are playing that game, then you're going to end up using those tools and then having to figure out, okay, how do I differentiate myself? And maybe it actually means you've got to do the longer, slower play, which is really getting to know somebody, like truly personalizing stuff for them. I mean, I was just reading, to your point about the video, of ways that you can do personalized video messages and just kind of splice in. I don't know how this is done, but it's AI, so who knows? Splice in the person's name on the video and everything. But if you really want to differentiate yourself, then you have to speak to your customer's problem. So instead of just, hi, Dan, I'm sure that you would love to get some more profit in your business and become more efficient in your day-to-day activities. It's like, no, Dan, have you ever had the challenge where, X, Y, and Z, because you're a home-based business and an entrepreneur and you've got a family? I know all of this because I researched you, right? And so going at things personalized, I think, is it's the only way to differentiate.
I think I agree with you. And what would you suggest to sales reps watching and listening that are kind of losing stamina in their sales? Losing, whether it be, whether you want to call it motivation, drive, ambition, desire, whatever the wording is that you want to use. What would you suggest to some of them that are watching to really help them kind of shift that focus and regain that energy and inject more stamina into their daily sales?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you would ask that, because this is advice that I follow, because I sell, like I get a certain amount of, inbound inquiries, inbound leads, but I do equally as much outbound prospecting, and figuring out my messaging, which, by the way, in terms of tools, I will use AI for messaging all day long. It's great for helping you kind of refine and make sure that your messaging is coming through.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to edit than it is to create.
Yes.
Is what I say when it comes to AI. Like, I'll do the same thing. I'll ask ChatGPT to do something, and I'll put in as best a prompting as I can. Then I'll throw it into Grammarly. I'll read it 5-6 times. I'll edit it, and then I'm good to go. So in the end, yes. Is it a kind of a baseline? Yes, but it's not a copy and paste and send and copy and paste and send.
Right, exactly. So for me, I think one of the things that has been to come up with like just a super targeted ICP, like your ideal customer profile, and to make a commitment to going deep with each one of those people, which is kind of what's funny about that is it's a little antithetical to go for no, in that go for no way back when we started was all about quantity, like get out there, numbers game, make your calls as much as possible. And the more time goes on, now I think quantity is still important, because I think too many people think they're doing the volume that they're not doing. They're not doing the volume that they think they are doing. And I see this all the time in the Go for No challenges that I run. That said, what I'm seeing and what I am doing is just doubling down on trying to build that relationship and working on doing research and figuring out what's going on with the prospects that I want to work with, and really who they are and who the different people are in the organization, and going deeper and spending more time. And it does take time, but with those deals, if you can make those deals pay off, then you're not just dialing and begging for the next, as you said, give me the load. What can I do? Trying to just scrape together a couple deals here and there. That is not the way to go. You want to spend time, and so to me, I look at it like being a detective. Like, I try to find the fun in it of this is my ideal customer, and I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to figure out who the vice president of sales is, who the VP of training is, what's their email, what's their phone number, what's their mailing address, so I can send them a package. And I have to kind of gamify it in my own head. Like, how can I get 100 like amazing ICPs that I can close, let's say 15 of them throughout the year. And then the next year I can add 15 more and continue working on, the 85 that I didn't make headway with. And I have to look at it like a game. That's for me, if I can look at it as a game, then I can get my energy around it.
I love that. I love the gamifying experience. A friend of mine, Chad, always said, when you gamify things, they change. Right. And it's like you want to make that next level because we're competitive and we like games. Right. You said something there that was very, very important to me. I do believe in the ICP wholeheartedly, because I believe your ICP dictates your messaging. Right. So for me, when I'm going out, every outbound email, I prefer email outbound. I've found that, I've never really made a phone call that's caught anybody at a great time where they say, man, Dan, I was just waiting to hear from you. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. And so I was saying to a couple of students a while back, I said, just pick your method, pick what you like to do, but get insanely good at it. Right. So your messaging, like you said, and Andrea, just for reference here, for all of you watching and listening, you heard Andrea say, I'm still doing a massive amount of outbound. How long have you been in this space on delivering sales messages? Because I want people to get an idea where, even if you're 5 years in, sales don't stop. It never does. So how long have
Yeah.
you and Richard been doing it? Well, you said 99 you were on
Yeah,
stage. So
99. So like 24 years.
24 years. So
24
even
years.
after 24 years, Andrea is still doing a ton of outbound sales in order to drive business. So for all of you watching this live or listening to this in the podcast, understand this isn't a one-time thing. This isn't 12 months of your life. And then this is a consistent thing. So if you're choosing this career in logistics sales as a career, not a job, as a career, then it pays to get insanely good at whatever form you're using for your outbound. Like I remember when I first got in this industry, I was a grade 9 dropout. I was my parents had told me, you got to go to school and get a degree or else you're going to be a loser your whole life. So immediately I had this, like, I'm a loser mentality. And I realized the potential for the life I could have in logistics. And within 2 weeks of getting to the company, I said, you know what? I got to become insanely good at this. Like I got to strive to be the best I could ever be and then push beyond that level in order to make it. Because I didn't want to suffer in life. I wanted a nice life. I wanted to enjoy my life. And I found a path or a route, if you will, where I could. But it all comes down to, are you willing to build that ICP? How can you solve goals for that ICP? Like for me, when I'm soliciting now, my questioning is directed all around my ICP. And an even bigger part of my questioning is what I offer, is it able to fulfill their goals, right? Like you go to a VP of sales and you say, here's what we can accomplish for your team. And they say, well, my team's already doing that. So you're not really accomplishing my goals. Okay, move on. They're not your ICP, right? Am I along the same lines as what you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to throw something in here because with you bringing up, I'm still doing outbound. I've been in this business for 24 years. And I will tell you the two enemies of having a lengthy career in anything, because I've had this happen more than once. Being a solopreneur, meaning not like having a lot of freedom, sometimes the freedom actually has been an Achilles heel to where Richard and I will find projects and we'll go off on tangents and one of those tangents, and this was kind of fun, was we ended up writing we wrote nonfiction for about 3 years. We fundamentally, I don't want to say we didn't close the business down. I just stopped a lot of my outbound and just took whatever came my way for I was able to do that for 3 years. And the two things I learned from that were, and there's been other times where I've had this happen as well. One, entitlement and complacency, Dan. And I hate to admit it, but when you get to a certain point, and again, it's happened to me more than once, like, okay, I've been doing this long enough. I'm a recognized name in this industry. I'm entitled. Like, where's the business? Bring it on. Where's the business? Mm-hmm. And then, so there's that entitlement mindset. And then there's the complacency, which is, am I on top of what's going on in the world? Like, do I know what's changing in sales? Do I know what's happening in the different industries that I work in? Am I paying attention to technology and how that impacts sales and how that impacts me teaching people how to get over rejection, right? So I spent some time studying that in kind of over the 2018 pandemic and during the pandemic time. And so those two things really have been I think the game changer. They're the slaps across the face, if you will. Yep. When I needed to be slapped across the face, it was like, don't be complacent. You can't sit on your butt and just expect things to come to you. And that's that entitlement mentality. And I think, I think we all can get there every now and then with the entitlement.
I fully agree with you. I remember vividly sitting in my business partner's office about 12, 13 years into my career, and we just opened a freight brokerage. And I'm like, man, I've put in my time. It's time for me to reap the rewards. And I remember him looking at me going, we just opened a company. What are you talking about? I'm like, dude, I've been doing this 12 years, man. Like, I put in my time. And it's like, and now I sit back and I think of it and I laugh my arse off because I'm like, what an idiot. Like, what made you think like that? You know what I mean? And I listen, in sales and logistics, I call it coasting. a lot. So a lot, and most of you sales reps out there will agree with this, and those that you don't, well, I believe you'll lie about other things too. Um, here's the reality. We as sales reps in logistics, a lot of the times we get to a certain point where we're generating X revenue, whether it be 30, 40, 50 grand a month, whatever it is. And we just stop selling because it's like, hey, I'm happy. Pursuit of pleasure, avoidance of pain, kind of that yin and yang in life, if you will, I guess. And we coast. And then all of a sudden we lose a customer. And it's like, oh my gosh, my lifestyle's in jeopardy. I better get selling again. Right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden we're selling again. And it's like, okay. And then sales becomes fun again if you're gamifying it, or you hate it every day. And if you hate it every day, then change that mindset, because this is your career, or change your career. Right. But yeah, I think I see salespeople go through it. Heck, I go through it. I still, to this day, will sit back some weeks and I'll go, I haven't sold for 3 days. Why? What have I been doing? Like what? And it's like, and then I run through my 3 days. I look at my agenda and there's like a big time slot for sales. I'm like, well, what did I do there? Oh, yeah, I was editing a video during that time. Well, yeah, okay. The video, it does add to my brand. It does add to the baseline. It does add to the foundation. But in that 3 hours, could I not edited that video at nighttime while I'm sitting in bed? And then maybe, as our good mutual friend Jeb Blunt says, the golden hours. All right, like during the day, is it really a smart choice to be editing a video if you're in sales? Or can you maybe edit the video after hours and make more sales calls during the day? Like, what's going to move the needle more? And I find sometimes I get caught up in and I don't know if this is proper English, but I'm going to say it anyways because that's just me, needle moving activities that tend to make me feel like I'm being productive. But in the end, it's not moving the needle I want moved. Does that make sense?
Dan, I have never heard anyone say that. That's crazy. No, of course it makes sense.
Yes.
No, of course it makes sense. We talk about this all the time in the Go for No challenge. I mean, this is what everybody's always dealing with is I want to do this, and there's all of these things, and I want to go on Facebook and just LinkedIn and connect with people, and it's like, no, what are the true income producing activities where you are researching your ICP, working on your messaging, and then most importantly, putting that message out into the world. And it doesn't matter if it's a text, a DM on LinkedIn, an email, or a phone call, you're putting those hooks in the water. And to my point earlier about quantity and quality, the more hooks you put in, the better, I think, ultimately. But also, can you, with those hooks, create a bank, if you will, of your ICPs where you are working on those relationships, going back to those people, building that, staying persistent, and developing those over time. Especially, and I don't know logistics well. I mean, it is not an industry I'm an expert in at all, but it seems to me that it's one where, yes, price is always a factor, but at the same time, loyalty, keeping your promises, picking things up and delivering them when you say you're going to do it has got to be huge. And I'm guessing that a lot of people get screwed over, for lack of a better word, by their current vendors. And so when those things happen, if you are building a relationship with that customer, when that happens, because that, it's inevitable, and yeah, sometimes there's reasons for that, etc. But if you are there checking in with those people and they say, you know what, I've had it. We've had too many issues. There's too many problems. I am ready to change. You're going to be the one that they're going to go with because you've been building the relationship all along the way.
Yeah. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And you're absolutely right. In this world, I mean, sales is sales, right? And like, unless you're in a retail store where somebody comes in and says, hey, you got fashion sense? I need to look fashionable. And then a little bit of a different story. But in general, sales from a B2B perspective is solely based on relationships. And, in our world, a lot of where our customers are talking about right now is like, where are you going to be when things flip? Like, how, if we get into this relationship right now, how are you going to protect me as much as you can when the industry flips? Right? Like during COVID, rates were 3, 4, sometimes some areas even 5 times what they were. Like shippers were losing their shirts because of cost of getting their goods to market. I think it was the one experience in my many years that I've been in this industry. This was the greatest realization for a lot of companies that, like, holy shit, we can lose our shirts here if we don't have our supply chain intact and really like honed in and structured and framework to the tilt and making sure it's running like a well-oiled machine. We can really lose our shirts. And the big thing about that is it's created this different focus now. And so I'm already talking to prospects about, I understand right now volumes are down. You have 3 or 4 people that you're working with. You got to kind of keep them happy because they were there for you during the tough times. When things flip, what's your plan? When things flip, I want to be the one that's there for you. So you know what? Things are going to flip in 90 days, maybe 120 days. Let's continue the conversation for the next 90 days. If we agree in a month or two that, hey, we're not right together, because I don't even look at business anymore. I look at people and say, like, will I work good with you? Because I don't want, call a spade, Andrea. I don't want a pain in the ass in my network. I'm not interested in it. And maybe that's my tenure in the industry. Maybe that's ego talking. But I want to wake up every day and do what I love. Maybe it was my sickness that made me start thinking like this. Maybe it was, like anything time things happen in your life, your perspective changes, right? But I have zero desire for drama. I have zero desire for BS. I have zero desire for excuses. I have zero desire for all of that in my life. And why would I allow that in my business? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, It's like me, my ICP is an individual, right? Which I'm sure yours is as well. And I don't care what kind of business they have from logistics, because you can range anything, like everything you see, you do a 360, everything you see is touch the truck pretty much, right? Like, last year, a truckload of 2 million bees flipped over on the highway. So when I say everything is shipped, like even bees get shipped. You know what I mean? When they can fly. Okay. So it's like, that idea and that philosophy that freight is freight. It's people. People is what, and I've often said to students, you don't sell a logo. People are buying you. They're not buying the company you work with. They're buying you. And same thing in your industry. They're buying you. They're buying Richard. They're buying your ability to motivate their team and to bring their team and to add new ideas and strategies and thoughts into the team's mind, where the team goes, damn, yes, I never thought of it like that. But now I'm engaged. Now I'm back in the game to gamify it. And I really think this is the big piece that a lot of people are missing. It's like they're going after it and they got this commission breath 24/7. And it's like, listen, that will come. But that's also a tough conversation when you're hurting for money, because you need money to live.
That's right. That's true. And it's stressful. Or they have at the last minute, and then you go like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
and then you go like, I'm never going to let this happen again.
And then 9 months later, you let it happen.
Exactly.
Yep.
Did you bug my office? How did you know that?
Yeah. So, you know what? The more we dive into it, the more every industry is the same. Right. I mean, I really believe that. I mean,
people are people. Yeah. And you know what? In my challenges, I have people who are in insurance and financial planning and wholesale and selling, like just anything and everything that you can imagine. And they all struggle with the same thing. And part of it is, so to your point about sales stamina, like what can be done. So gamifying it. But there was something else that you said earlier, and I did want to go back to this, which is you were like, hey, if you don't have fun selling, like you do have to, there has to be a weird part of your brain that like enjoys it, that enjoys the pursuit, the the challenge, the oh, they said no to me. Okay, they said no to me now, for now, but they don't know me. They don't know us. They don't know what we're capable of. And so this is going to be the first of many no's. And then I am going to make them see how great of a company we are, service we provide, service that I can provide. And so I'm going to bide my time. And that, I mean, and this is kind of how Jeb Blunt thinks too. I think you can tell, like, he just loves sales so much. Yes. You have to have that inner fire in you to have that. If it's just like, oh, I can't do this one more day, I don't care about these people, I hate these products. We can all have a bad day, and throw your pity party, like, get frustrated, be upset, but the next day you want to get over it pretty quickly. And I think that's how you know that you belong in sales, is if for most of your days you're like, I'm up to the challenge. Like, I'm not going to let all these no's hold me back. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to see, like, this message isn't working. So, okay, let me figure out how to make it better. I'm talking to the wrong people. Let me figure out, okay, what's wrong here? What other door can I go through in order to get to, the person I should be talking to? And you've got to like that. You've got to like that challenge, I think.
Yeah. Ryan said to me, we were talking about sales, and I guess my verbiage was, oh, I have to sell today. Like, I've got to sell for at least 2 hours today. And he says, Dan, he says, why don't you think of this? I get to sell today. And I'm like, yes. Oh, that just the verbiage changes the perspective. I'm like, I get to sell every day. How special is that? Like, I get to reach out to new people every day, talk to new people every day, communicate, engage, figure out how to make engagement work, figure out how to make messages work, figure out, like, to me, I'm like, oh yeah, now we're talking turkey. And I love turkey. And, it's that overall, I get to over I have to. And, one thing that's interesting is in my head, I'm reviewing our conversation, and you've never said the word have to. Never. Not in this conversation. So you can tell it's like you enjoy what you do. And sure, there'll be those, coasting moments for us all, and I'm sure we will all coast for a certain time. But it's having the gratitude, I think, to be able to do this. And do it well, and hone your craft, and be that. And for me, everything in sales for me comes down to, can I help the customer achieve a goal? And I'll tell you, in sales, the biggest payout above any amount of money is watching your customers achieve their goals and pushing them forward as Luke Skywalker and staying in the background as Yoda. I've said this on numerous occasions. Luke Skywalker would have never beat Darth Vader if it wasn't for Yoda. But did Yoda get any credit? No, he stood as a shadow in the background while all the Ewoks and everybody praised Luke, right? That, to me, is the ideal situation for us and our clients. You want your client to be raised by their peers and, yeah, way to go, when you're in the background helping it work. And that is, for all you salespeople out there that can switch the focus to that, you're a winner. I believe hands down you're a winner, because if your customers achieve their goals based on your ideas, strategies, frameworks, and tools that you give them, I think you are in a wicked position to master your market.
It's interesting. And not to get uber philosophical here, but it's kind of funny. Like, I just ordered 5,000 copies of Go for No. And I work with a printer in, where are they now? I guess they're in Indiana now. And the books got shipped. I have no idea who the carrier was. I don't know who they use. All I know is they left the printer. The next thing I know, they were scheduled to be dropped off at our warehouse, and they got dropped off. No problems. I've never had any problems. And so whoever they are using, assumedly it's working, but those are the kind of results I think that you never, like, as a salesperson in this industry, you don't think about the ripple effect
Mm-hmm.
that what your work does with your customer to then their customer, and how that reverberates for everyone. And so think of it as, if you're feeling down and you're feeling not so great and or stressed, and you're not feeling excited about sales, what you do matters. And sometimes you have to, if you don't hear those stories, you kind of have to think about, hey, what I do matters, even though I don't necessarily hear those stories.
Mm. It's a great point. It's a great point. Any closing strategies for anyone that's listening out there, um, about sales stamina, about what we talked about? Is there anything you didn't add that you'd like to add?
So we talked about needing to really like sales. We talked about mindset. And I think mindset really is so key. And when I say mindset, it's not just your mindset, but it's having a growth mindset. It is being willing to learn. And I've known you now, Dan, for a long time. And I remember when we first connected and you were just like the craziest, bounciest, like most enthusiastic person I've ever met. And you were so excited to talk to me and talk about rejection and failure and all these things. And I thought, I don't know, like, what this guy's deal is and kind of where he's going to end up. No, seriously, like, I don't know where, but his passion for learning, like, you have to this day. But even when we first met, I thought, he's so into personal growth, he's so into personal development. I know that no matter what he does with his business on working with salespeople, as salesperson himself, he's going to be super successful because he has a passion for growth. And so I think that's that final key about stamina is you do have to like sales. You should try to gamify it, but also, like, think of the work that you put into the sales profession, getting better, learning new phrasing. It is what you get from it. All of the stuff that you read, being willing to be a student, that spills over, and you tell me if you agree with this, Dan, that spills over into your personal life. Like, you grow as a person. The sales skills you learn, and study will help you in other dark moments and other trying times with other obstacles, because you learn, like, okay, if I can survive this no, if I can survive a string of rejections or radio silence from customers for 2 weeks straight, I can survive this obstacle over here.
Yes. Yeah, it's I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think there's another piece of the puzzle, um, that everybody should be aware of is, I'll use my health over the last year as an example, right? Huge personal bump. Been doing it since I was 18. Believe in mind over matter, um, and my mind got crushed while I was sick, right? So I think as humans we slip, and the ability to regain that focus and start applying what you learned, right? Like as a person that loves education, I could sit here every day and read books and be fully content because I'm learning. But how am I applying it? And
Mm.
this for me is becoming more and more important as I dive deeper into the idea of personal growth, right? Like personal and professional growth, I think comes hand in hand. And you can't have personal growth without personal development, right? So, and this goes beyond, the rose colored glasses, hoity toity, Pollyanna kind of idea. This is like real growth. Like I'll take your book when they say no, and I'll read it 3, 4 times, and I'll say these principles apply to me. Not only do they apply to me, they can help me. How am I going to implement them in my life? And this is one thing that I've said so many times to so many people is how are you implementing? And you know what, Andrea? When I got sick, I didn't implement my own strategy into my life. And
Mm.
I was going down a very dark road, like mental health wise, possibility wise, recovery wise. Like I just wasn't recovering. And the second I flipped my mindset and said, oh my God, Dan, for the last 4 months, 5 months, you've done nothing. Like you have not practiced everything you've learned. And you know what? Personal development's great. You have these little bumps you use for your personal development. You use a different mindset. You get past them. This is a friggin' mountain. If you can blast through this, you can blast through anything. And that's when I started getting better. That's when my health started turning around. That's when so many things in my life started shifting. And I'll tell you, life took me, which some of you salespeople right now might be feeling like the industry is taking you and it's just giving you this horrible vibe or this, you know, this feeling of angst, anxiety, like frustration, anger, and just things not being fun, like waking up in the morning and having to drag yourself out of bed to go to work just to get a paycheck, right? Like that for me was the big shift in my life. And I can go through, I don't know how many parts of my life when it comes to sales, when it comes to my programs, when it comes to my training, when it comes to anything, right? It's like that mental flip. And I still remember vividly the first year I called you. And I remember because it was December 9th, it was my birthday. And I came up with this idea that I wanted 15 high performers to talk about, you'll probably remember this, gratitude on Christmas, the week of Christmas, right?
Yes.
And then a New Year's revolution instead of a resolution. And we did 2 videos. I asked everybody for an hour of their time, December 9th, and I wanted it done before the 15th of December because I needed time to edit the videos. And I never thought of how many people are going to be busy. I just thought, oh my God, this is like, yeah, we got to do this. We got to do this. And everybody I reached out to said yes. And within 5 days, I had 15 hours of material that I edited and put out between Christmas and New Year's. And it's funny because I sat back after and I said, I never thought of what was going to stop me. Like I never thought of, and not to sound rude or ignorant, but I never thought of your schedule. I just said, oh, Andrea's in. I know Andrea's in. I know Bob's in. I know Brian's in. I know Nito Cobain's in. I need, you know, all these huge, they have so much on their plate, you know, 20 days before Christmas or 11 days before Christmas. And it's like, yeah, let's do it. And it was like instantly. And then I started the next year. I was like, I tried to do it again. And I said, what if people say no? And all of a sudden everyone's saying no. And it's a crazy, like it not no, like Dan F off. It was like more of like I'm totally swamped. I
totally
can't.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't put it together in time, so I didn't do it. But it's amazing how that mental side of it, you know, like for all of you out there, you know, raise your hands or ask yourself how many times you've made a phone call and you're like, oh man, I hope I get a voicemail so I could just leave a voicemail. I've done that many times. But yeah, so I appreciate that string at the end there, Andrea, because that is so important.
Agreed.